Hi, I'm Alicia Cole from Padme's Playhouse Quilting, and today you are watching a tutorial about how to make ties. So, the thing about these ties, I want to get out of the way, is that they are completely machine sewn. So you get a tie that ends up looking like this. If you were to flip it up inside out, there's your seam. Okay? So, if you don't want a machine sewn tie and you would rather hand stitch it, there's this great YouTube tutorial that I will also link down below. It's just really good. Super easy to understand. Okay, so the first thing that you are going to need is a pattern. I don't have a pattern, but I got one from Sweetshopsewing.com. And she has a tie pattern on there and a tutorial. And it's just really great. So I'm going to link that down below so you can check that out and get a pattern if you need one. This is the fabric we are going to be using today, or I'm going to be using today. It's suiting fabric, and I just fell in love with it. It's super soft and gorgeous, and yeah, I just couldn't say no. So this is what I'm using. For the lining, right next to the suiting fabric, there was lining, and that's what this was. I'm not 100% sure what this is made out of. I know it has cotton in it, but it also feels a little synthetic-y. So I'm not 100% sure. It was relatively cheap. Both of these are at Joann's. So yeah, let's get started. The first thing that you're going to do, of course, is trace your pattern onto your fabric and then cut it out. But you're going to be tracing and cutting on the bias. So I've already traced, but I want to show you what I meant about the bias. So there's length grain and there's crosswise grain, and then bias is going to be diagonal. So I know you can't see my markings really, but they're there, I promise. And it's diagonal, it's on the bias. And you are going to get two pieces. You're going to do this on your main fabric and your liner fabric, same exact thing. And you're going to get two pieces that obviously look just like your pattern. Like this. So I'm going to go cut out my main fabric and then I will be right back. Okay, so cut out my main fabric pieces. So that's them. One thing that I forgot to mention is something that was driving me crazy about the tutorials I was finding online is that they don't tell you how much yardage you need. And for me, I like to know that thing when I'm going into the store. I like to know exactly what I need so I can get in, get out, start making stuff. So for me, I went in and I bought a yard of fabric. I bought a yard of my main fabric and a yard of my lining fabric. And with that yard, I'm able to make two ties. This isn't exactly saying that with half a yard you can make one tie because you are cutting on the bias. It's not exactly an up and down. You can fit two parallel to each other. It's a little tricky. So I have like one going this way and one going this way, and that's with my yard. So if you want to be safe, I would get a yard, but maybe a half will work. I don't know. Okay, anyways, back to the tutorial. On this lovely pattern, there are these little notches that you transfer on to your fabric. Now, Let me show you why. Because I never transfer my notches onto my fabric. Do not follow my example on this. This fabric doesn't really have a right side, wrong side, but you would do right sides together. And you would get something that looks like this. So you just match up your notches, okay? Draw them on there. And you are going to sew, I do mine 1/4 inch because I'm a quilter, but you're gonna sew across this, and you're gonna do that on your main fabric, and you're gonna do that on your lining fabric. So let's go over to the sewing machine and let's do that. Okay, now, like I already said, you're going to place them where you get something that looks like this. And you're just going to sew across that. Now, like I said, I sew 1/4 inch, but I think the actual pattern calls for like 3/8 or something like that. And you will end up with this. So we're going to do that also to the lining. And voila, you have your 2 pieces. Now what we're going to do with these is we are going to take them over to the ironing board, and we are going to press these seams open. Okay, so we're just pressing our seams open. Let's see here. Which way am I not going to burn myself? And we're going to do that to both pieces. Now you have this. And then what we are going to do is we are going to take them right sides together. We're going to go onto these little points here, and we are going to pin these together because this is going to be the next place that you're sewing, and you don't want your fabric shuffling around on you. So I'm going to put a pin right here. And right here. Like that. Then I'm going to turn it around, make sure it's not twisted. We're going to go to this big end, and we're going to do the same exact thing. Now I've noticed with my lining fabric, it's a lot stretchier than my main fabric. So I don't always, when I'm like tracing it, it like shifts around. So it doesn't always match up perfectly, but that's okay. Doesn't destroy what you're making. You just might have to fuss with it for a second and get it as good as it'll get. And there you go. Now we're going to go back over to the sewing machine and we are going to sew these together. And all we're doing is we're going from this little point down to this point, from this point up to this point. That's all we're doing. We're not touching the sides at all. So let's go do that. And this time I'm using the 5/8, just so you know. On my very first tie, I did the 1/4 inch, and then I used the 5/8 on the next step that we're gonna do, and it didn't turn out bad, it just didn't look right. So now I'm using the 5/8. Don't run over your pins. To our other end. Okay, so my camera died, so I'm going to show you what I did. I sewed, like I said, down, and then I cut off this end. I did the same thing on the other side. Now what we're going to do is that we are just going to turn this like that. And we're going to turn this one. Like that. Now we are going to take this and we are going to fold that in half with the lining on the outside. And then we're going to pin this so we don't have to worry about it, because we're going to go sew this next. Okay, now we're just going to sew down that edge where we just pinned all the way to the bottom. And at the beginning and the end, I'm going to back stitch just so it doesn't come out. I'm gonna do right before I turn it is I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna get that seam right in the middle as good as I can, and now I'm going to press this seam open. Okay, now we are going to turn it. And what I'm going to do is, I suck at turning things, so I have this chain I've made safety pins. And I'm going to pin it through the top. And I'm going to feed this chain down into my tube. And then I'm just going to bunch it up, work with it, and turn it. Okay, so after you're done turning your tie, you are going to press it on this side now, and then you'll be done, and you will have your tie. So thank you for watching this tutorial, and if you like it, show some love, hit like, hit subscribe, and I will be coming out with more tutorials, mostly quilting stuff, but some sewing stuff too. So stay tuned for that, okay? Bye guys.